Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Buzz Breakfast. We're going to wait a few minutes to let everybody get into the room. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Summer Buzz Breakfast. Delighted to have you this morning. Really looking forward to it. My name is Ed Manning. I'm the Executive Director for Leadership Asheville. We're really thrilled that you could join us this morning. A couple things that just want to share with you. First of all, want to say a few thank yous. First are to our co-presenting sponsors, Dixon Hughes Goodman and the Van Winkle Law Firm. Really appreciate their help making sure this program continues. We're trying to provide information to the community and bring us together in times of challenge. So it's my pleasure this morning to actually introduce Martin Moore, an associate in the firm's litigation practice group, where he focuses on commercial disputes, construction, professional design, employment, and workplace law and toxic torts. He's worked locally in criminal defense and juvenile advocacy, gaining significant trial experience. Please welcome Martin Moore. Martin, let me spotlight you so you can say a few words of welcome.
Thank you very much, Ed. Good morning. As Ed stated, my name is Martin Moore, and I'm an attorney with the Van Winkle Law Firm. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and being present with us this morning as we bring you what I'm confident will be an interesting and engaging presentation. We're proud to sponsor and partner with Dixon Hughes Goodman and Leadership Asheville to sponsor the Summer Buzz Breakfast on shifting leadership mindsets to find opportunities and change. While our full-service law firm has had the pleasure of serving Asheville for over 100 years, these unprecedented times have encouraged, if not necessitated, changes and innovations in the way we do business to continue to effectively serve those in our community. Now, I'm certain that each of us has had to adjust our thinking, seeking new ways of engaging clients and customers, as well as friends and family, becoming more comfortable and proficient with technologies and strategies that allow us to remain connected to our community and the populations that we serve. As evidenced by meetings such as this, Asheville has proven that we too are resilient and continue to thrive in this tumultuous time in spite of the pandemic. As we go forward, I look forward to hearing from our two speakers, Kyle Hermans, co-founder and CEO of Be Courageous, and Mary Lynn Manns, author of Fearless Change and More Fearless Change. Thank you all for your commitment and continued work to keep Asheville safe, strong, and prosperous. And thank you, Ed.
Martin, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time and again, very grateful to Dixon Hughes Goodman and the Van Winkle Law Firm for all you do for us and the support you give us. Really appreciate it. Also, want to thank our table sponsors. These guys have been great because while we don't have tables anymore because we can't meet in person, they've continued to sponsor us at that platinum level. So Explore Asheville, Parsec Financial, Western Carolina University, and of course the University of North Carolina, Asheville. Really grateful for their support, continued help. Likewise, our sustaining partners who really support us throughout the whole year with all of our programs make a significant contribution to the work we are doing to promote collaborative leadership capacity in our community. TD Bank, Waste Pro USA, and the Van Winkle Law Firm. Likewise, I want to thank our community partners who also make an in-kind contribution to help support the work and extend what we do. Blue Ridge Public Radio, 103.3 Asheville FM, the Crown Plaza Resort, Gray Line Trolleys, and the YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly. Really appreciate the help that they give us and the support. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our planning team, Jesse Fry, Michelle Keenan, Austin Pullison, and Elise Lewis, all Leadership Asheville Class 37 graduates. I had to think there for a second because we just graduated Class 38. They have done a fabulous job, especially with the amount of change they've had to go through and shifting what they started planning in December to what we're actually delivering today and this month. So thank you for that. And a special shout out to Jesse for putting together the video we're going to use this morning. I really appreciate that. Thanks for all the work you've done. So just to let you know, they had planned a whole Summer Buzz series that usually goes June, July, and August. And of course, in March, we had to stop and change everything. We switched around and started doing more of these. Normally, instead of just the 3, we've already done 2. And this last one that we did 2 weeks ago was really about looking at Asheville's past and what we've done as a community and how we have been able to move out of challenges and find opportunities in the change in our environment. Had a great panel doing that. I got great feedback from all of you who are listening, and I really appreciate that. I wish we had more time to talk about, okay, how do we leverage that going forward? But that's really what today's conversation is going to be. We're going to look at our current situation and where we are. And so we have 2 expert speakers with us that I'm thrilled to introduce to you. Kyle Hermans, co-founder and CEO of Be Courageous, the global growth platform helping leaders and their organizations master their exponential future today through courageous breakthroughs in culture transformation, enterprise strategy, insight-led innovation, design science, and impactful organization engagement. Really thrilled to have Kyle with us. And Mary Lynn Manns, the co-author of 2 books, Fearless Change, Patterns for Introducing New Ideas, and More Fearless Change, Strategies for Making Your Ideas Happen. Mary Lynn's also a professor in the Department of Management and Accountancy at UNC Asheville. Really looking forward to hearing their insight on how we address change. I've said it before, and it's been said many times, the times of greatest change are the times of greatest opportunity. And so we are in a moment where we have opportunities before us if we can look at embracing those. So with that, before we jump to those 2, I do want to share a little video where, as I said, the team put together, and Jesse really edited the whole thing, put it in, but they interviewed local businesses about the shifts they've had to make in the last 2 months and what they've done. So we want to share that with you right now.
So Mountain Foods basically started as an attempt to distribute local.
Well, that's not helpful. Let me try it a different way.
So Mountain Foods basically started as an attempt to distribute locally produced and locally grown food locally. I mean, the first thought is, what are we going to do? And in a lot of ways, the way the business had been designed, I had protected us from leaning too heavily on any one customer as our primary outlet. The things that still seemed to be available were selling to retail outlets. We also reached out to some of the more conventional grocery stores, the Harris Teeters, the Fresh Markets, the places who were having some trouble with their supply lines. The other thing that really opened up, and this has been big, is that there was a lot of effort that went into home delivery. I think there's definitely going to be a demand for home delivery. I think that the combination of people maintaining some of their concerns about being out in public, along with the convenience of getting food delivered home, I think that's going to continue.
My name is Lori Pate, and I am the co-founder and creative director of Dig Local, and also the co-founder and executive director of the nonprofit Food Connection. Okay, so Food Connection is a nonprofit that traditionally rescues unserved food from restaurants, catered events, universities, institutions, buffets, and we rescue all of that food and connect that to nonprofit partners who need food and address hunger issues that way. But when COVID happened and there were no weddings and the universities closed and the restaurants shut down, all of our food supply went way down. And then meanwhile, the need for food went way up. I mean, there were a lot of people that found themselves food insecure for the first time in their lives. So rather than sit around wondering when things are going to get back to normal and we can start rescuing food again, we had to do something right away. And so what we did was we started a campaign where we were taking donations on our website specifically to pay for the raw ingredients to get local chefs back in the kitchen to create meals on our behalf for us to distribute to people in need and our nonprofit partners. That's really interesting, Jesse. I think that what we've learned from this pivot in our business is that there are chefs that aren't normally able to donate to Food Connection that are willing to do that, and they're willing to open their kitchen to make meals for us if we can provide the ingredients. So that's incredibly exciting to me to think that we could maybe double the amount of food with rescued food and specifically fundraise for the ingredients to have the chefs prepare meals on our behalf. I really do. I think that we're going to continue doing that.
My name is Emily Kopis, and I'm the owner of Carolina Flowers and also now of Zadie's Market. And Carolina Flowers is a flower farm and florist. We have a flower shop, we do farmers markets, we sell wholesale, we do it all. I like to joke that we are a vertically integrated flower empire, but it's actually not a joke. And so I think I realized maybe a little bit earlier than some folks that we were really going to have to do something. And so about March 12th, I think, is when the wheels really started turning for me as far as like, what is our next move going to be? I definitely spent a couple of days feeling very scared. We were scheduled to open our retail store on March 21st, which did not happen. And we had workshops. We'd already sold workshop tickets for that event. We had a whole bunch of irons in the fire. Our wedding season was about to go off like crazy. We were right on the precipice of harvesting our first of 8,000 tulips that absolutely had to sell. We had so much money invested in them. So it wasn't like we could just stop. That was never an option. So a couple of things that I think were helpful in figuring out what we were going to do was thinking about what we did have and what we were already good at and how those things might come into play. And so, one of my 2020 goals already was to really ramp up our delivery capacity. So we had already been working toward that goal anyway, as far as having our website set up, having vehicles, infrastructure, logistics, kind of ready to go. We certainly were not ready to do the volume that we are doing right now, but we got ready pretty quickly. Carolina Flowers is a business I started because I wanted to do something beautiful and create careers in agriculture and contribute to Madison County and work the land in a ecologically sustainable way, and also because I liked business. And so all of those things are things that Carolina Flowers will continue to do. The market that Carolina Flowers serves is different than the market that our grocery business serves. Zadie's is the name of our grocery business. And emotionally, Zadie's feels like a very different kind of business for me, because I think it's the kind of business that people start when they're ready to make an impact beyond what a small number of people can do. And so in some ways, I think it's a more mature business. And it's a business that's born more out of the needs of the community than it is out of my own interests. Carolina Flowers will always be around as a way to serve my interests and what I think is beautiful. But Zadie's, I think, has a mission that's a bit stronger as far as what it can contribute to Western North Carolina.
So that's just a few of the businesses that have had to make some serious shifts, not only in their business model, but in their thinking as leaders. And that tees us up for our conversation today. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kyle Hermans, and we can talk about shifting mindsets and finding opportunities and change. Kyle?
Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Ed. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure where everybody is dialing in from, but I know it's early here in the California coast, and it's what an amazing way to start the day. So first of all, thank you to the Leadership Asheville team, the sponsors, community, fellow speakers, and to all of you. I want to congratulate you first thing this morning for coming on here and being part of this. It's immediately a demonstration of strong leadership to be putting yourself out there, to be joining conversations like this, to be taking initiative. That is a very strong representation of your will, your hunger to learn, your hunger to skill up. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all. So with this particular topic today, which is very exciting around shifting leadership mindsets to find opportunities and change, is one that is incredibly close to my heart. It's probably one of my most passionate subjects because it has all the good things in it. It's got shifting mindset, which I think is absolutely critical and important for us as we are all co-creating the future together. Leadership, which is really about standing up and being a representative for yourself, your family, your community, and role modeling the right way to do things in life. And this idea of finding opportunities and change, which I believe stems from very deep creativity. It stems from looking at the world around us and saying, what could be better? What else could we do, to resolve issues that are long past due to be resolved? And actually finding opportunities and change, to me, means that we can all rise together and that we can go after evolving this world better together. So for the time that I have with you today, I want to give you 6 things that I believe are very important criteria and things to think about. Think of them as almost like a framework as you're shifting, your own leadership during these times, because this is an unprecedented moment in history. We've heard it many times during the day. That's also an unprecedented opportunity, meaning that there's we all have the same leveling field right now. There is no blueprint for what's coming next. Even governments, large institutions, massive organizations, and small communities, we're all dealing with the same ingredients of things to face. So it's a hugely great opportunity for us to start creating the future that we want and start looking at the future as a blank canvas and saying, well, what can I reclaim in my own personal life and my leadership and my business, and how can I start going forward and start making the change that I want to live into? In my world, I'll just give a quick prerequisite before going into the 6 things, is that there are 3 really big areas that in our work that we focus on, which is the idea of mindset, how we shift that thinking. It all starts with mindset. The second piece, which I'll get into deeper, is our energy, which is the piece around how we show up, but also where are we driving our strategic focus? Where are we putting our energy and our intention? And the third really big area is this piece about action. It's great to think about big ideas. It's really good to feel the feelings and have the energy to do something. But if we don't take that action, unfortunately, we don't get to move forward. And there's a big piece as we're guiding organizations through the concept of courage. There's a piece when we go and speak to leaders who are facing massive challenges that require resilience and determination and grit to step up into the day and to lead teams and lead organizations and even lead markets. We say that one of the hardest things to do is try to solve for the future from the present, meaning we're standing in today trying to carry a lot of our legacy and our baggage, as well as all the things that we've worked so incredibly hard to get to where we are today. And often holding on to so many of those things, driving forward into the future, can actually minimize, reduce, or dismiss some big opportunities because we feel we have to bring everything with us. What's amazing, as you've been hearing, I'm sure, on many different articles about the Great Reset or time to reimagine, I believe that this is an opportunity to do an exchange, meaning that we all inside of us, from a psychology perspective, have different parts of ourselves. We all show up, some days we're a quiet, chill day, or a lazy day and a relaxed day. And we do have a very calm, collected version of ourselves. Other days when it's required, we have a very vibrant, energetic, intentional version of ourselves that shows up. Sometimes we have formidable leadership parts of ourselves that show up. And you can just imagine times in your life where you can almost identify with different characters that show up in your life and that step forward in the right moments. This is one of those opportunities where you get to kind of look internally and choose, who is it? What are the parts inside of me that could actually show up right now and lead successfully and lead a shift in mindset and start looking for opportunities? What are those? So when we say that leaders are trying to solve for the future from the present, our invitation is to reverse engineer that process. Solve for the present from the future. What that means is we have to go out and start imagining and creating what we would like to create. Where would we like to shift our mind? What are the opportunities that we could imagine are available for us as small businesses, or even large businesses, whoever's on this particular webinar right now? And to say, all right, if I imagine and really shift into the mindset and into the idea that I have achieved the outcome that I want, and I can visualize it, I can feel it, I can identify with it, embody it. How did I get here? Look back from that future state to the present and start working your way back to now. What ends up happening just in that cathartic process of shifting the mind, it puts you into a state of accomplishment. It puts you into a state of believability. It puts you into a state of imagining new things that are completely separate and untethered from the reality of today. We can always come back and deal with the reality of today, but what we have to do is free ourselves up to start to create and then work feasibility back from the future to now. It's very important for us as leaders to start practicing the idea that any major athletes or professional, actors or superstars or anybody even in successful businesses, they've always reached the destination in their mind before they have physically reached that destination in their lives. And what they've been able to do is connect there and say, all right, so how did I now get here? And then they start to work that feasibility back to the present. So the 6 things I'd like to share with you right now of what we believe, and again, for us, we've spent over the last several years working with some incredibly courageous and ambitious leaders around the world, and we're constantly learning and theming and tracking those behaviors, what works, what doesn't work. What are some of the formidable things that show up consistently when we see people, really capitalizing on big opportunities, shifting their own mindset, shifting leadership, and exemplifying role models? These are these 6 powerful things. So the first one, and we're using amazing cue cards here today. So instead of big fancy presentations, we're going to do it old school, which is really great. So the first one over here that you can see is the idea of clarity. And what I mean by clarity is living and working with intention. When we want to shift our leadership and we want to shift our mindset and look for opportunity, we have to have some sense of why are we getting up? What are we going after? We have to have a sense of clarity. Living and working with intention means like, all right, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go after the day, even though maybe all the plans that I had, even though maybe all of the pipelines and funnels and the routines and rituals that I've spent so hard building my business around and serving the customers in the way that we've connected, maybe a lot of that dynamic has shifted. Because that dynamic shifted, it doesn't mean we have to change why we started the business in the first place, what that original passion was, what that original purpose was for why we started. What's interesting with this particular pandemic that's happening in the world right now, I think there's a misconception that we're dealing with it as if it's going to be a reoccurring trend every single year or every single, every few months. Right now, it's a big moment in time. It hasn't become a trend yet, which means that if we put energy to believe that this is just, these types of things are going to show up repeatedly, if we've got evidence and proof that it is going to show up repeatedly, well, then we can start to direct our clarity and our purpose towards anticipating that these might be reoccurring events. If it's a one-time single massive pandemic that does systematically and fundamentally change who we are, it doesn't mean that you have to change your vision. It doesn't mean you have to change your purpose. That higher level reason, that clarity is, I'm still getting up in the morning. I'm still serving the customers I want to serve. I'm still serving my community. I'm still showing up as a good leader. That sense of clarity is incredibly important to live and work with intention. Because when you live and work with intention, you get to reclaim your day, you get to reclaim your mind, you also get to reclaim how you can start to influence and guide others. So this takes me to the second point over here. So that first one is clarity, living and working with intention. The second one, as I mentioned, is about energy. Energy is really, really critical. How are we managing our mental and our physical energy? If we aren't getting the right amounts of sleep and nutrition and rest, if we have negative self-talk for ourselves, as you heard in the videos, a lot of us, even myself, I have a small business, that we're fundamentally looking to grow. But the first few weeks were really scary. And I had to notice a few weeks in that was like, wow, my energy is a little bit all over the place. I've, for some reason, stopped my routine and exercise. I haven't been eating so great, maybe a little bit too much comfort eating. Maybe I'm binge watching a few too many things, which is like, wait, I just have to take stock of what's kind of going on. And I noticed that my energy wasn't in flow. It felt a little bit more displaced. But if we're managing our physical and mental energy, I'm getting up, I'm sticking to my rituals and routines, no matter what the conditions are, the things that help to bring strong positive energy to myself, to my family, to my community, to my workforce. If you're leading and running a business, what is that energy that we're showing up with? How are we managing that mental and physical energy? What are the books you're consuming right now? What is the media that you're watching right now? All of that is energetic inputs, there's stimulus. And if we are filling ourselves with things that aren't really helping our mental and our physical energy too well, we actually lose more control of our energy and someone else takes over our narrative, somebody else, we almost give our power away. So energy is super critical to be able to manage our mental and physical energy and to do those things every day. Because when you do manage physical and mental energy and you are resting, creativity opens up. We make new neural connections every 40, 45 minutes of just low cardio exercise. If you go walk and take your business calls, you'll be so surprised how productive those become. Resting 7-8 hours minimum sleep actually drives up efficiency and productivity in your life, wellness, health, all those kinds of things. So energy is super important. The third one over here is necessity. Necessity is kind of a build on from energy, which is, it's the feeling that it is necessary for me to get up and be my best, whatever my best is. Sometimes I could just be getting out of bed. I did a great thing. I got out of bed. I actually put on real clothes. There was a thing for several weeks where because we're doing so much in front of computers now, where I was telling my wife that I didn't think that for the first time I hadn't actually put on like running shoes or because we'd just been, at the house, I hadn't put them on in weeks, which was amazing. And, the necessity for me in this particular case was to show up for my best, was managing my energy, managing my health, managing my vitality, still getting outside, still getting that exercise and nutrition. But necessity is to showing up at your best is really around, look, I started something very powerful. I have a reason and a sense of clarity about why I'm leaning into my day. If I'm leading a team, it's necessary for me to demonstrate that here's how we should be operating. Here's how we should be thinking. Here's how we should be communicating. It's showing up with vulnerability. It's showing up with empathy. It's showing up and making hard decisions. It's showing up and being supportive to your team. But that necessity is a feeling like, is it necessary? We have to feel that sense of energy, almost a sense of healthy urgency that is necessary for me to show up and demonstrate. When you show up with necessity, you can tell the difference when someone's just showing up because they're showing up and someone's there because they're They're there to do something. It's necessary for me to be here. I believe in this day. I believe in this moment. I believe in this synchronistic for the 60 plus people that are all together. This is a synchronistic moment for us. We're all coming together to have this conversation so we can go and not only influence ourselves, but influence others around us. It's necessary to show up and be my best. So the fourth one for me is the idea of productivity. Productivity is key here. Productivity is, am I working on things that matter? This isn't about just getting busier and busier and busier to sort of, maximize every minute of the day just for the sake of looking like we're working really hard. But are we working on the right things? When it comes to advancing and evolving in times of disruption and crisis or pandemic, or even where things necessarily aren't going our way as we had anticipated, something comes along, an event comes along and just shifts things, we have to reestablish a sense of what are the right pieces of work to work on right now. So if you're operating from better clarity, you're managing your energy, you're showing up with necessity, and that you want to do great for your day, whatever that means for you, and show up to be your best for yourself and others, what you'll notice is that there's a natural inclination to direct yourself towards productivity, to work on the things that matter. What matters right now? Are there some things where the old way of doing things, there's some things that don't serve us anymore? It's some things that may not serve our business. You heard just on the video how many amazing businesses have pivoted. They're finding new ways to be productive. They're finding new ways to give back. They're finding new ways to support the community, just like this community, this incredible community. And again, congratulations, to Leadership Asheville, to this incredible community, to the team coming together here. And again, I'll commend you because this is so important. Community during these times is so incredibly important. Are we working on the things that matter for ourselves? How are we spending our day and our time? Is that progressing us forward? Are we making impact? Because when we work on the things that matter with a sense of clarity, you will find the opportunities for change. They come at you. Opportunity is a very interesting thing. It seeks out those that are seeking out opportunity. It's like a magnetic moment. It really is. That for those of you that are in any way philosophically minded or in some way spiritually minded, the idea that we attract to us what we think is I believe in my life, I've experienced it, it's very true. Leaders that attract great success or impact to their lives are because they're thinking about it. They are adding it to their productivity. They're adding it to their necessity. They are channeling their energy towards that kind of an outcome before they've even got there. They have a sense of clarity and purpose why they're getting there. So productivity is key, working on what matters. What are those things that matter? These don't have to be gigantic, massive things. These could just be 1% improvements on a daily basis towards the outcome that you are going for. Then the fifth one for me is the idea of influence. Influence is really important. Are we guiding ourselves and others well? Are we treating people well? One of the craziest things when disruption shows up, when it feels like it's out of our control, when we are at the effect of things that are happening to us, the ability to step into cause, meaning like, all right, I'll take this reality as it is, and let me step into cause. What can I do with these ingredients? You know, the term which is like, this is the hand I've been dealt. What can I do with this? Now, a lot of the time when we're under pressure and under stress, not many of us are our best selves when we are dealing with stress and anxiety and loss and fear. You know, those are some of the most biggest psychological drivers that lead us away from what we truly want and how we truly show up. So influence is very important. Guiding ourselves and others well is that idea of how can I show up and exemplify good influence on my children, on my spouse, my partners, my community, my work leaders. Am I bringing my stress to my interactions and my engagements, or am I actually bringing a healthy conversation? Am I bringing a healthy energy? Am I working on my stuff and taking care of my energy before I show up to others, or am I not influencing in the right way? Because what's important during these times is everybody's looking for a stable, strong pillar. They're looking for a strong voice. They're looking for a strong guide. They're looking for leadership. And it isn't necessary to be told what to do. They're just looking for somebody that says, okay, this is happening, but I have confidence that it's going to move and evolve in the right direction for us. That influence is important. And then one of my favorites, of course, we ended up naming our company after this one, but one of the sixth and biggest one here for me, which I think wraps a lot of this, it's an outcome, is the idea of having courage. Having courage is so important. Being courageous is to me, it's an outcome. When you address your fears, when you focus on going after the things that feel a little difficult, when you do work on that sense of clarity and you're doing the hard work of getting clear, of living with intention, you're managing your own energy, you're making the commitments to nurture yourself and others around you, you're showing up with necessity to be your best, you're working on things that matter while guiding and influencing people in a healthy way. Every single one of those things requires internal courage. I believe we all have a massive pool of courage within us. And it's up to us to start to share our real thoughts, our real feelings, to step into these moments, use our creativity, share our ideas, and share our leadership. Because when you wrap this all up together, it's about demonstrating and becoming a really good role model. And so again, I commend this community for doing exactly that. Just by being here today, that's already, showing a massive example that you're here willing to learn, willing to action. And with that, I thank you very much. Those are the 6 things for me: clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, and courage. And I'm wishing every single business here a massive success. Please keep nurturing this community. Please keep nurturing Leadership Asheville and the team and all the great work that they're doing. And it is with great pleasure to be able to introduce Marilyn Mans, who is an awesome author and a great human being, and is I'm really looking forward to her talk. So thank you again so much, team. And Mary, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. And thank you, Kyle. Strategies for shifting leadership mindsets. So Kyle talked about the strategies, and I'm going to talk about specific tactics or patterns to help you, that's you, make change happen. So here's all you really need to know about me. I believe that you can change the world. And I'm just going to give you a little paraphrase quote from people like Jane Goodall and David Lamont, a local musician out of Black Mountain. You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. Therefore, you are changing the world whether you like it or not. And so you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. So I don't propose that you should aim for changing the whole world. I just want to give you a little example to further introduce myself, what kind of a wacky person I am. I once gave a commencement speech, a graduation commencement speech at the university. And having been to so many commencement speeches, I know that people just sit there and listen and think in the background about what they're going to do after the graduation is over. So I decided to make one little change. And when I gave the commencement speech, I started by talking about how the students could change the world. And then I started music, and we all got up and danced and danced and danced and danced wildly through the whole area where the graduation is. So I didn't change the whole world of boring graduation speeches, but I certainly did change it at that time. So I'm asking you to think about that and think about this whole big task that you have in front of you and that you may be overwhelmed, but I believe change happens one person at a time, one moment at a time. And when you are making the change and attempting to make a change, you're changing one person, one moment. So this is what I'm going to talk about. So fearless change is a collection of tactics for making change happen that you can use at a moment's notice for making change happen. Now we call them patterns, and I say we because I have a co-author, Linda Rising, and we spend 20 plus years on the road in airplanes talking to people who made change happen, either in their organizations, large organizations, small organizations, for-profit, not-for-profit, in various different countries. And we listen to their stories. We just ask for their stories, prompt with some questions, but mostly just listen. And what we tried to pull out, what we did pull out from all those stories, from all those different kinds of people, is the tactics that they used to change one person at one moment. Because really what they weren't trying to change their organization. They're basically trying to change the people in the organization. We asked questions about their failures too, and how they recovered from failures. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Some of the patterns, the tactics that they used in moments of time to make small changes that eventually became big changes. So I want to thank Leadership Asheville for bringing Kyle and me together, because Kyle talked more at a strategic level, and I'm going to talk at more of a tactical level. What a great team. So all of these patterns have names. And just like Kyle, I will do the low-tech way of holding up cards to share these patterns with you. Each of them are small actions that make a big difference. Each of them are small actions that make a big difference. So I'm going to give you an example of one. Champion Skeptic. So all of these patterns have a name. And Champion Skeptic was used recently when I was talking with a nonprofit board who was trying to clean up a lot of messes. And they were working really hard and making small changes and doing a darn good job, but there was this group of skeptics who were constantly ambushing them and talking with other people in the organization, well, talking badly about them. So everything the board was trying to do was being semi-destroyed by this group of people who were ambushing their efforts. I told them, I said, you need to bring one of them on your board, one of the skeptics, and make him or her a champion skeptic. And this would be a person who would point out what might go wrong because they're skeptical. What they said, no way, they're troublemakers. And I said, just try it, just try it. And finally, after a series of conversations, I convinced them. They finally selected one of the people in this group of ambushers to be on the board. And just as we had suspected, this person came in and was able to be vocal about all the things that could go wrong. And so this person got a voice for the group that was causing problems, so to speak. And so it was no longer fun to complain. It completely subsided, you know, the people who were trying to ambush their efforts because they had one of their own on the board. So another example of a small tactic that can make a big difference is Bridge Builder. I recently saw Bridge Builder being used by the governor of Michigan. The governor of Michigan was opening real estate in the state, and rather than getting up there and talking about all the rules surrounding the opening of real estate in her state, she asked a real estate agent to get up there. And so that real estate agent was the bridge builder who was able to get up there, and rather than saying, you need to do this and you'll need to do that, as the governor would say, the real estate agent was able to say, we will do this and we will do that. And so this was a good bridge builder for the governor to use. So all of these patterns, before I go any further, are small tactics, but they have positive and negative consequences. So we write about that in the book, about the positive consequences of doing these tactics and the negative, the gotchas. And one of the negative consequences of both Champion Skeptic and Bridge Builder is that you could pick the wrong person for each of these. So in the case of Champion Skeptic, I tell people, make sure you find someone who complains because they want to make things better, not someone who complains just to complain. So Champion Skeptic, find someone who complains because they want to make things better. So I'm going to give you a collection of some more strategies, and some of these will speak to you and some of them won't. And I'm in the limited amount of time, I'll go through them quickly. I'll give you my website at the end where you can go find a little more information about them. There's a total of 64, so I'm going to cover some of them today. But again, the title is Fearless, change. So let's talk about the word fearless, except I've made it 2 words. Fearless. Fearless. So I recently heard a woman say, I enjoy challenge, but I feel challenged all the time right now. So what she's having too is a lot of fear of the unknown. She's challenged because of all these unknowns. And so that made me think about Elizabeth Gilbert, who recently spoke on Being with Krista Tippett on NPR. And she said, she asked the question, I thought this was so great. What would happen if you welcomed your ideas with curiosity rather than fear? What would happen if you welcomed your ideas with curiosity rather than fear? In other words, you're going to fear just a little less. You're not completely fearless. That would be reckless. But you're going to fear just a little less. Welcome your ideas with curiosity rather than fear. Now, we've had to do all this because we had a wake-up call. When I work with organizations and they have a lot of problems, we go through this technique of trying to figure out what's their biggest wake-up call. And they have the control to figure it out. What's their biggest wake-up call that they have to address? We don't have that luxury. So one of the approaches people are taking, one of the approaches that I've seen people are taking now is this just do it approach, another pattern. So again, all these patterns are named, thanks to Nike for this one. So just do it. Just do it is a pattern that says, don't wait for the perfect moment. What can you do now? And I'm reminded of early in the pandemic, watching TV, the Sunday morning show, you might have seen this too, about this pinball machine store owner, the store owner that had probably looked like 30, 40, 50 pinball machines, and people used to come in and play. Obviously, his business was going to close fast, and he moved fast. He just did it. What he did is he decided to put out on social media that his pinball machines were available for rental. Brilliant. And all these people who were stuck at home with their families were like, yeah, I'm going to rent a pinball machine. So quickly, he delivered as many pinball machines as he could, and now he charges rent for them. I also heard and saw Food Connection in the video say, we had to do something right away. So again, not waiting for the perfect moment. I was just thinking this morning, yes, I did that with my hair. I can't wait for the perfect moment when I can go and learn how to cut hair. So I got in there and cut my own hair, for better, for worse. That's what I did. Now you're all staring at my hair, right? Did my best, right? Just do it. My co-author and I, Linda, reached this moment. We had a talk about what we were going to do because we had speaking engagements planned. And we love to speak in person. We have a lot of energy in a room full of people and we get them working. So we didn't wait for the perfect moment to learn how to speak online. There's a lot of classes we could have taken. We just started transferring our speaking engagements to online. Just do it. Now that's one approach. Another approach is to find a shoulder to cry on for a moment. So we've had a loss of life as we know it. Ours is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation, finding a shoulder to cry on. One of our speakers this morning said, I spent a few days feeling very scared. So I invite you to think about calling in others for your shoulder to cry on. Think about this. As a society, we celebrate in a group our accomplishments and our sad life events. In other words, we celebrate and we grieve our life events. So why should this time be any different? Why not get together with others and admit what you're scared of? I think this takes courage, as Kyle said. I also think this takes vulnerability. And I was preparing this speech, I thought, I got to go back and listen to some more Brené Brown, specifically her TED Talk on vulnerability. This shoulder to cry on as a group, doing this as a group, and you can certainly do this on Zoom, although we are kind of zoomed out. We can also do it in our front yard, 6 feet apart with a glass of beer, talking loud. What this also does is gives us some external validation. So I'm going to give you an example of an Airbnb owner in the Chicago area, owned a lot of Airbnbs. This was his primary income. And one of the things that he did with other Airbnb owners in the Chicago area is spend some time together in the early days of the pandemic and talk, shoulder to cry on, and decide what they were going to do. And as a group, most of them decided, all right, it's going to be less money, but we're going to start renting out our places long-term. As a group, they decided this pandemic isn't going away in a month or two, and they're going to start renting their places out, furnished long-term. Now, that was a very cognitive decision. We know that you have an emotional connection to your business. So as this Airbnb person said, I really miss talking to people and missing people. I want you to think about, as Kyle said, that you should know yourself. This is a chance to be more of who you truly are. Are you working on the things that matter, that mean something to you? I encourage you to look at what Studio Zakaya is doing right now. I received a wonderful email from her yesterday about how they decided that they're shifting their business because they realize that they can now use their studio for more than just dancing in the studio. She knows herself. She knows what she wants. So all this requires a time for reflection. And you hear a lot about time for reflection, meditation, blah, 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 blah. How do you do that? I'm going to encourage you again to get together with your friends and do some imagining. What does the world feel like now? Feel it, talk about it, cry about it, laugh about it, and then move to possibilities for the future. Think about it, cry about it, talk about it, feel it, actually imagine it. Look for opportunities by looking at now and looking in the future. Do it by yourself or do it with others. Most of all, any opportunity you come up with, know yourself. What will work for you? So as I'm wrapping this up, I want you to think about what you're doing as an evolving vision. This is not a big strategic plan. What is your bigger purpose? So for example, when we went online with Fearless Change, we realized it's much harder to talk online. But our elevator pitch to ourselves was, we want to get the strategies out there. We want to get the patterns out there. So we did it in baby steps, very different than a strategic plan, the baby steps. And we looked for the low-hanging fruit. And from that, we made a concrete action plan. And for now, you may want to do just enough. One more story from a fabric store owner. Obviously, she's not having anybody come in and buy fabric, but she decided that just enough for now. She is creating little craft bags for parents and selling them, those little craft bags the parents can drive by and pick them up. That's just enough for now. I also thought about a successful photographer who has many impressive credentials, but using this time to take FaceTime pictures of people, videos, and then editing them. And so this is a great thing for people that want to remember the pandemic. Just enough for now. So I encourage you to think about the Imagine That pattern and look at what's now, feel it, plan for the future, talk about this with your friends. You can find out more on this website, fearlesschangepatterns.com. There's a summary of the patterns. For the most part, I have been piggybacking on what you already do, but I also encourage you to look at a article that came out on CNBC on May 11th called Why It Might Not Be Such a Crazy Idea to Start a Company Right Now. In fact, General Motors, IBM, Groupon, and Uber started in downtimes. So I'll leave you with this thought. What are the opportunities? Maybe you could be the next General Motors, IBM, Groupon, or Uber, but it happens one tactic at a time in one moment in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Kyle, as well. Just want to ask if any folks have questions for our panelists. We are using the Q&A function. You can enter those now. That would be great. We'll take just a few questions before we need to wrap up. And of course, if we don't have any questions, we can move forward. Wait just a second and see if any come in. And as I'm not seeing any come in, I want to thank Mary Lynn. I want to thank you, and Kyle, thank you for taking time to be with us this morning. Folks didn't know that Kyle's on the West Coast, so he was up like at 5 this morning to join us, and I really appreciate you doing that, taking time to be with us. It was wonderful. Thank you for the helpful strategies. Yes, we are in times of great change, and yes, these are times of great opportunity. Thanks also to our co-presenting sponsors, the Van Winkle Law Firm. We really appreciate that. Dixon Hughes Goodman, thank you. And folks, our next Buzz event is going to be on June 24th, so keep an eye out for the email. Yes, we'll still be meeting, unfortunately, via Zoom. It'll be great to actually get back to the Crown Plaza, we hope someday soon. With that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to the Buzz Planning team. Please have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.